Hello and welcome to Nullitaire Gaming, where we play games with 0 players. In other words, we play games with bots, or AI, against one another. No humans are allowed in our games. And in this series we're playing Imperium, both Classics and Legends. We have started a tournament, and if you haven't seen the first video of this series, I recommend watching that first, because that's where I describe the tournament and how I set up the games and talk about the bots in general and that sort of thing. So I'll leave a link in the description of this video to the full playlist so you can start at the beginning. Okay, so our tournament has begun. We've already played the first game, and spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you who won the first game if you haven't seen it. Okay, here's our tournament. And the first game, the Arthurians versus the Vikings, the Arthurians came out on top. Okay, so now we move on to the next game, which will be the Romans versus the Egyptians. So, here we go. Okay, the game is set up. As before, I randomly chose who would go first by flipping a coin. The Romans won the coin toss, so they'll be the first player, and the Egyptians will be the second player. And as before, the first row is the hand for the first player. I've put their deck in line with that row. And the second row is the hand for the second player. Put their deck in line with that row. Okay, so the Romans go first. Here we go. The Romans roll a 3, and the first card is Glory. So looking at their chart, the Barbarian chart, Glory is a specific named card here. If able, abandon 3 regions to gain the top fame card. Well, they don't have any regions in play, obviously. We just started. Otherwise, gain 1 progress, and you recall a region. So once again, when you see U in the bold lettering here, that refers to the Solitaire player, since these bots were designed for Solitaire play. But for us, we will understand that to mean the opposing bot. So the U here would be referring to the Egyptians. In any case, they can't recall a region because they don't have any regions in play either. So all that's going to happen here is the Romans are going to gain 1 progress. And of course the Glory card goes to the discard pile. The next card is City of Rome, which is pinned, has the pinned icon, which I believe is the first priority they'll come to. Okay, gain 1 population, put this card into history. So the City of Rome card will go under the power deck into history. We skipped 3 since that was the number rolled. Move on to the 4th card. It's a region, Dalmatia. Okay, so a region card. Discard the top card from the bot deck, play this region, and exile a card from the market. So we've discarded a card from the bot deck, we put the region in play up there, and now we're going to exile a card from the market. Bots always exile cards from the left, and they pick the first card that doesn't have any tokens on it. So since this card doesn't have any tokens on it, they will exile that card, put it over there, and replace it. Okay, since that's a tributary, I'll put some unrest under it. The last card for the Romans is Triumvirate, which is a Barbarian card. So for the Barbarian card, if able, spend 3 population to break through for a tributary. Well, the Romans only have 1 population right now, so they can't do that. Otherwise, if able, acquire a region. They can do that. Otherwise, gain 1 population. Okay, so they're going to acquire a region. The only region in the market is Archipelago, so they will take that and put it on top of their deck. That's the end of the turn for the Romans. So they will place progress on the 3 card in the market, slide this one down, and they'll refill their hand. It's the Egyptians' turn now. They also rolled a 3, and their first card is Egyptian Hieroglyphics, which has the pinned icon. So we'll look at the Egyptians' Barbarian table, and the first thing we come to is that pinned icon. Okay. Gain 1 population, discard the top card from the bot deck, and put this card into history. So they've gained a population, discarded a card from the top of their deck, And Egyptian hieroglyphics is now going into history by going under the power card. The next card is Unrest, so it simply goes to the Unrest pile. The next card is Advance, which has the Barbarian symbol on it. Okay, so that's going to be what they'll do here. If able, spend 2 population to acquire a region. They don't have 2 population, they only have 1. Otherwise, if able, spend 2 materials to acquire a civilized card. Well, they don't have any materials, so they can't do that. Oh, or an uncivilized card. Okay, anyway, they don't have any materials. Otherwise, discard the top card from the bot deck and put this card into history. So they'll do that last thing. Discard the top card and put this card into history. The last card for the Egyptians is Flood of the Nile, which doesn't have any icons on it at all. So we're probably going to end up at Other, all the way at the bottom. It doesn't have any of these icons. It's none of those named. Okay, so we end up at Other. If able, abandon a water region, I guess is what that indicates. In any case, they don't have any regions in play, so they don't have anything with that symbol. Okay, so they can't do that. Otherwise, discard the top 2 cards from the bot deck and gain 2 materials. And this card goes to history. Okay, so they'll do that. Discard the top 2 cards, gain 2 materials, and this card goes to history. That's the end of the Egyptian turn, so once again, progress goes on the card in the 3 spot. This slides down, and they will refill their hand. They've only got 1 card in their deck, though. So that means they're going to take a card off the Dynasty deck, add it to their hand, to their discard pile, and they'll reshuffle. The Romans roll a 6, so they're going to play all of their cards this turn. And the first card is Advance, which has the Barbarian symbol. So, actually it's specifically named here for the Romans too, and that comes before the Barbarian symbol. Okay, if able, spend 5 materials to break through for a civilized card. Well, they don't have 5 materials. In fact, they don't have any. Otherwise, if able, acquire an uncivilized card. Okay, they can do that. Otherwise, gain 1. Okay, so they're going to acquire an uncivilized card. The only uncivilized card in the market is Invasion. So they will take that, together with the Unrest, and put it right on top of their deck, with the Unrest on top. The next card is Archipelago, which is a region card. So discard the top card from the deck, play the region, and exile a card from the market. So I've discarded the top card of their deck, put the region in play. I always put them in play from left to right, because the order they were played matters for some effects. And now they're going to exile a card from the region, from the market, not from a region. And again, they do it from left to right. The first card that doesn't have any tokens on it, and that'll be the Greeks. So they'll exile that. The next card is Unrest, so it will simply go to the Unrest pile. And I'll play the next card, which is Roman Expansion. It has both the attack symbol and the Barbarian symbol. The attack symbol is their first priority, so they'll do that. Okay, you recall a region, you take Unrest. So this refers to the Egyptians. So the Egyptians are being forced to recall a region. No big deal for them. They don't have any regions in play, so that doesn't do anything. But they can take Unrest, so that's what they'll do. So they'll simply take an Unrest card and put it on top of their deck. The last card for the Romans is Conquer, which is a barbarian card. So I think that's going to be the first priority. Yep. Okay, if able, spend 3 population. They still only have 1, so they can't do that. Otherwise, if able, acquire a region. They can do that. There's a region in the market. Okay, so that's what they're going to do. They're just going to acquire a region. There are 2 regions in play now, Steppe and Mountain. So bots always take the card that's worth the most victory points. This one is worth 0, has 0 written on it, and there are no progress tokens. Progress tokens count as 1 victory point. So this is worth 0, whereas this one is worth 1, since it has 1 victory point written there. So they'll take this one. Because they rolled a 6, they don't place any progress at the end of their turn. They'll just refill their hand. They didn't quite have enough cards to refill their hand, so they'll take a card off the Dynasty deck, place it in discard, and shuffle their deck. The Egyptians are up now. They rolled a 1. Their first card is Glory, which is a named card here. If able, abandon 3 regions to gain the top Fame card. Well, they don't have 3 regions in play, so they can't do that. Otherwise, if able, acquire a Civilized card. Okay, they can do that. There are 2 Civilized cards in the market, Temple and Exports. And by the way, a little tip, something that that I messed up when I first started playing this game, is watch out for the uncivilized cards, because sometimes they have the civilized icon down here. This one doesn't. But if you just go off the color of the banners, which is kind of easy to do, you might miss that, so be careful. Civilized cards can sometimes have that green banner. So make sure you pay attention to the icons at the bottom. Okay, so they're going to take the one that has that's worth the most victory points. They both have this asterisk icon down here, and we always treat those as 5 victory points. But of course, the progress tokens also add 1. So this is worth 8 victory points, and this one's worth 6. So they'll take this one. The next card is Unrest, so that will simply return to the Unrest pile. Play the next card, which is a region, Lower Nile. Okay, region. Gain 1 population, play this region, and exile a card from the market. So they pick up a population. That region is now in play, and they're going to exile a card from the market. The first card with no progress, with no tokens, is Step, so that will be exiled. The last card for the Egyptians is Nile Valley, a region card. So a repeat of the last card. Gain 1 population, play the region, exile a card. So they gained a population, played the region. Now they will exile a card. Road building has to go. That's the end of the turn for the Egyptians. They place progress on the number 1 card in the market, and they will refill their hand. The Romans now roll a 4. And their first card is a region card, Mountain. Okay, so region card for them. Discard the top card of the bot deck, play the region, exile the card. So I've discarded the top card of their deck. We put that region into play. Now exile a card from the market. Well, the first 2 have tokens on them, so it'll be Moneylenders that gets exiled. The next card for the Romans is an uncivilized card, Invasion, and it also has the attack icon there, which is their first priority, I think. Yeah. Okay. You recall a region and you take Unrest. So this, again, referring to the Egyptians. So they're forcing the Egyptians to recall a region. They have some in play now, so that will happen, and to take some Unrest. So the Egyptians have to recall a region. They always take the last, bots always take the last one that was played, the one most recently played. So since I always play them left to right, it'll be the one furthest on the right. So to recall it means to put it on top of the deck. And they also have to take some Unrest, so that also goes on top of their deck. The next card is Prosperity, which has no icons on it, but I think it's a named card, yeah. Okay. So it's a named card here in their table. Discard the top card from the bot deck. Gain 1 material and 1 population per region in play. And the Egyptians may draw a card. For the bots here, they don't really have a hand, so instead of drawing a card, they simply discard the top card of their deck. So the Egyptians will discard the top card of their deck. The Romans will discard the top card of their deck. They have 3 regions in play, so they'll gain 3 materials and 3 population. And then the Egyptians will discard the top card of their deck. Okay, so I discarded the top card of their deck. They gained 3 materials and 3 population for the 3 regions they have in play. And now the Egyptians will also discard the top card of their deck. The last card for the Romans is Glory, which again is a specifically named card here. So if able, abandon 3 regions. Well, they can do that. They have 3 regions in play to gain the top Fame card. Okay, otherwise, okay, so they're not going to do that. So they'll just do that. Abandon 3 regions to gain the top Fame card. So to abandon regions, To abandon a region is simply to take it and put it into discard. So that's the first one, that's the second one, and that's the third one. Okay, and then they'll gain the top Fame card. Put it right on top of their deck. That's the end of the Roman turn. They place Progress on the 4 card. Slide that down and they'll refill their hand. The Egyptians have rolled a 6, so that means they're going to play all of their cards this turn. The first card is Egyptian Incursion, which is both an attack and a barbarian card. And it looks like barbarian is the first priority. So if able, spend 2 population to acquire a region. Yes, they can do that. They have 2 population, there's a region in the market. Okay, otherwise if able, spend 2, okay, they won't do that. Otherwise, okay. But then this card goes into history. Okay, so they're going to spend 2 population to acquire a region, and then this card will go into history. They've spent the 2 population, and there is only 1 region in the market, so they'll take Fortified Region. They're acquiring it, so it goes on top of their deck. And then Egyptian Incursion will go into history. The next card is Unrest, so it will simply go to the Unrest pile. And I'll play the next card, which is Exports. It has both the attack and the Empire symbol. I don't think they care about either of those symbols. Okay, so it's none of these, it's not that. Okay, so we get all the way to Other. If able, abandoned a region with the water symbol, and actually they do have one now. The Lower Nile is in play. And we see that that water symbol is right there. Okay, so they can do this. So if able, abandon the water to acquire a civilized or uncivilized card. Okay, otherwise they won't do that. Okay, and then this card goes into history. So they've abandoned the Lower Nile, it's in the discard pile, and they're going to acquire a civilized or uncivilized card. There's 3 to choose from here. This card is worth 5, 6. This card is worth 2. No progress there, so just 2. And this is worth 2. Alright, so clearly they're going to take the Temple. The next card is Unrest, so to the Unrest pile. And then Prosperity is their last card. So that's a specifically named card here. Discard the top card from the bot deck. Gain 1 material and 1 population per region. Okay, the Egyptians don't have any regions in play anymore, so that won't do anything. And the Romans can discard a card. So all that's going to happen here is both bots are going to discard a card from their deck. That's the end of the Egyptian turn. Since they rolled a 6, they won't place any progress. They'll just refill their hand. They didn't quite have enough cards to fill their hand, so a new Dynasty card into the discard, and they'll shuffle. The Romans roll a 2, and they begin with the Prosperity card. So that says, discard the top card from the bot deck, gain 1 material and 1 population per region in play. They don't have any regions in play anymore, and the Egyptians may discard the top card of their deck. So both bots will discard the top card of their deck, that's all. So this actually puts us in an interesting situation. Because the Romans can't discard the top card of their deck. Their deck's empty. So the Romans can't discard the top of their deck. They can't gain any materials or population because they don't have any regions in play. So the only thing that would happen here is the Egyptians would discard the top card of their deck. And that struck me as a little strange. So the only thing that's happening here is something beneficial to the other player. That strikes me as weird. So then I got to thinking, well, maybe that means they won't do this. Right? The rules tell us that if none of the actions can be performed, then we carry on in the table until we find the next priority that matches the card, and we do whatever it says. So I was thinking maybe we do that here. But then I thought, well, wait a minute. I mean, something is happening here. The Egyptians are doing something. So like the good nerd that I am, I went to the internet to try to find an official answer, and there is one. Nigel Buckle, one of the designers of this game, has officially declared that as long as some game state changes by the directions, then that is accomplishing some part of this action, and therefore it is complete. Right? The action is done. So even if that means it's beneficial for the other player. So as long as the Egyptians are going to discard a card from the top of their deck, then that's all that will happen. And they will. I said in the first video that whenever a bot has the option of doing something, they're just automatically going to do it. So the Egyptians will do this, and that's all that will happen with the Prosperity card. And I just wanted to point out that if the Egyptians also had an empty deck, then none of this would have happened, and then we would have carried on. Okay, but because they could discard a card, they did. The next card is Triumvirate, which is a barbarian card. Oh, wrong chart. Make sure we look at the right chart. Okay, barbarian card, I think that's the first priority. Yes. If able, spend 3 population, they can, to break through for a tributary. Otherwise. Okay, so they're going to spend that 3 population and break through for a tributary. So they've spent the population, 3 population. They're going to break through for a tributary. Now when bots break through, they still just take from the market if possible. So they won't go rooting through the decks unless there isn't an available card in the market. So they're going to take this card, the Assyrians. They leave behind the Unrest because they're breaking through, so they'll put that on top of their deck and take the Progress, of course. The next card is Advance, which has special instructions for the Romans. Yeah. If able, spend 5 materials. They don't have that many, so they won't do that. Otherwise, acquire an uncivilized card. They can do that. Otherwise, gain 1. Okay, so they're going to acquire an uncivilized card. Mysticism is the only uncivilized card in the market, so they'll take that with the Unrest. Get Progress there, and it goes right on top of the deck. Roman Expansion is next, which is an attack card. Just their first priority. The Romans love attacking, apparently. You recall a region, you take Unrest. Okay, so the Egyptians would have to recall a region. They don't have any, so they can't do that. But they can still take Unrest. So the Egyptians took an Unrest card, put it on top of their deck. That's the end of the Roman turn. So they place Progress on the 2 slot, slide this down, and they will refill their hand. They only have 3 cards, though. So 1, 2, 3. That means they'll have to add a Dynasty card to their discard and reshuffle. The Egyptian turn now, they roll a 2, and the first card plays a Temple. A civilized card that's both pinned and has the Empire symbol. So I think pinned is our priority, yes. Gain 1 population, discard the top card of the bot deck, and put this card into history. The next card for the Egyptians is Nile Valley, a region card. So gain another population, play the region, and exile a card from the market. So they've gained a little more population, put that region into play, and now they'll exile a card from the market. Corruption has no token, so that'll be it. The next card is Unrest. So it goes to the Unrest pile, and then they play the next card, which is Lower Nile. Okay, so that's a region. So again, gain a population, play this card, exile a card from the market. So the Minoans that just came into play will be exiled. That's the end of the Egyptian turn, so they place Progress on the 2 card, and they will refill their hand. It's the Roman turn now. They roll a 1, and the first card plays Unrest. So go to the Unrest pile, play the next card. Mysticism, which is pinned. So I think that's the first priority, yep. Gain 1 population and put this card into history. So they've gained population and that card went into history. Next card is a tributary card, Assyrians. Okay, So it doesn't have any other icons on it except Tributary. So that'll be the priority. Discard the top 2 cards from the bot deck. Gain a progress and put this card into history. Okay, so that's all done. The last card for them is Prosperity. Okay, so Prosperity, once again, discard the top card from the bot deck. They can do that this time. They actually have cards in their deck. They still don't get any materials or population because they still don't have any regions. But the Egyptians, well, this time the Egyptians don't have any cards in their draw deck, so I guess it's payback. The Romans discard a card from their deck, and then that's it. That's all that'll happen here. That's the end of the Roman turn, so progress token on the 1 card, and they'll refill their hand. Okay, it's the Egyptian turn now. They roll a 3. The first card is Fortified Region, which of course is a region card. Gain a population, play the region, exile a card. So they have 5 population now and 3 regions in play. We're going to exile a card. The first 2 have tokens on them, so Corruption will be exiled. The next card is Unrest, so back to the Unrest pile. We skip the 3rd card, and this is, wait a minute, Cushites? Okay, well, I guess that's probably a typo. Shouldn't that say Cushites? Alright, anyway, it's a Tributary Barbarian card. Okay, so Barbarian comes up first. If able, spend 2 population. They can do that. They have 5 to acquire a region. Okay, otherwise, okay, and this card goes into history. So they will spend 2 population, acquire a region, and this card will go into history. So they're down to 3 population now. The only region in the market is Moor, so they will acquire that. And Cushites will go into history. Okay. The last card for the Egyptians is Unrest. So, pretty uneventful end there. Alright, so progress will go on the 3 card. That will move down. And they'll refill their hand. They only have that 1 card, the region they just picked up there. So, they'll take a new Dynasty card and reshuffle their deck, which is rather slim. Look at that, only 3 cards. The Egyptians are very efficient here. It's the Roman turn now. They roll 4, and the first card they play is a fame card, Notorious, which has the attack symbol on it as well. So that actually comes before fame. Interesting. Okay, so the attack symbol is what we'll do. So the Egyptians have to recall a region and take Unrest. So the Egyptians recall Fortified Region, and they'll take Unrest as well. The next card is Glory. So that's here. If able, abandon 3 regions to gain the top fame card. The Romans don't have any regions in play. Otherwise, gain 1 progress and you recall a region. Okay. So the Romans will take progress, and the Egyptians will have to recall another region. So the Romans now have 5 progress, and the Egyptians have to recall Lower Nile. The next card is Unrest, and they'll play the last card, which is Invasion, an attack card again, which is the Roman first priority. So they're going to force the Egyptians to recall another region and take more Unrest. So the Egyptians have to recall the Nile Valley and take Unrest once again. That's the end of the turn for the Romans. They place progress on the 4 card, and they will refill their hand. It's the Egyptians' turn now. They roll a 5, and the first card is Glory. So, let's see, that's a specific named card here. If able, abandon 3 regions to gain the top fame card. Well, they used to have 3 regions in play, but the Romans made them recall all of those, so they can't do that. Otherwise, if able, acquire a civilized card. So they'll do that. There are 2 civilized cards in the market. These 2 here. This one is worth 7 victory points, and this one is worth 3. So they will take this one, Amphitheater, including the Unrest and the Progress tokens. Put it right on top of their deck. The next card is a region, more. So gain 1 population, play the region, exile a card. So they have region in play once again, and they'll exile a card. This one has a token on it, so it'll be town. The next card is a region, red land. So a repeat of the last card. Gain population, play the region, exile a card. They're back up to 5 population, and they'll exile port. The next card is Unrest. We'll go to the Unrest pile. And that's the end of the turn for the Egyptians. They place Progress on the card in the 5th slot. Slide this down and refill their hand. The Romans are up now. They roll a 4, and the first card is Conquer, which is a barbarian card. I think that's the first priority. Yeah. Okay. If able, spend 3 population. No, they only have 2, so they can't do that. Otherwise, acquire a region. Okay, they can do that. So that's what they'll do. They'll acquire a region. There are 2 regions in the market. Jungle, which is worth 1 victory point here. And Coast, which is also worth 1 victory point because it has a progress token on it. So they're tied with respect to victory points. So the first tiebreaker is the number of tokens that are on it. So this one has 1 token, that has nothing. So they'll take this one. The next card is a region, right here. And let's see, region, discard the top card from the deck, play the region, exile a card from the market. So that region is in play, and they'll exile the first card in the market with no tokens, that's Jungle. Here's the Triumvirate card again, which is also a barbarian card. So we'll have a repeat of this. They still can't spend 3 population, they only have 2. So they will acquire a region. The only region in play is Cape, so they'll acquire that. The region deck is now depleted, so for this space they're drawing off the main deck now. So Macedonians came into play. So there are no regions in the market right now. The last card for the Romans is another region, Dalmatia. So discard the top card of the deck, play the region, exile a card. Okay, so the first card in the market without any tokens is Urban Development. That's the end of the Roman turn. So place Progress on the 4 card, and they'll refill their hand. They only have 2 cards though, so they'll have to take a card from the Dynasty deck and shuffle their deck. It's the Egyptian turn now. They roll 3, and the first card is Prosperity. So the Prosperity card, discard the top card of the deck, gain 1 material and 1 popularity per region. They have 2 regions in play, so they'll get 2 of each. And the Romans will also discard a card. So the Egyptians have gained, well, they discarded the top card of their deck. They gained 2 materials, 2 population. And the Romans are also going to discard the top card of their deck. The next card is Unrest. Yep, the next card is more Unrest. Oh yeah, the Romans made them take a bunch of Unrest when they had to recall all those regions. Okay, and this is one of those recalled regions. Okay, so now Valley as a region. So gain a population, play the region, and exile a card. So the Egyptians are slowly rebuilding their regions. Okay, they gained a population, now they're going to exile a card, and so this region, Marsh, is going to go. Okay, that's the end of the Egyptians' turn. They put Progress on the 3 card, and they will refill their hand. Didn't have enough cards to make it, so they go to the Dynasty deck, and wouldn't you know it, the Unification card is on top. That has that full moon symbol there. So that means when it goes in the discard pile, they become an empire. So we'll flip their card and reshuffle their deck. Okay, so I need to correct an error Then unfortunately I didn't notice until a couple of turns had gone by. So I've reset the state of the game back as best I can to this position. So what happened was the glory card was sitting on top of the power card here. I think what happened is I meant to discard it, but there probably was no discard there, and I just put it there thinking that was the discard pile or something like that. So I've learned a lesson from this. I'm going to move the power card up there with the history, and I'll have the draw deck and discard down here. That way hopefully I won't make that mistake again. Okay, so at this point we're adding the unification cards. Now the glory card is really in the discard. So that glory card was left, basically what happened is that glory card was left out and we reshuffled the deck, so that caused some difficulties. Okay, but now we really have it in there, so now we'll reshuffle and continue the game from this point. Okay, I've done the same thing with the Romans over here. I'm going to put their history up here and the draw deck and discard here. Hopefully that'll keep me from making the same mistake. Okay, so the Romans' turn now. They roll a 5, and the first card play is Archipelago, a region card. So we're going to discard the top card from the bot deck, play the region, and exile a card from the market. So the first card in the market without any tokens is Gambling. The next card is Mountain, also a region card, so the same thing should happen. Discard the top card, play the region, exile a card. This time it's a Tributary, Carthaginians, that gets exiled. Next card is Roman Expansion, which is an attack card. So the Egyptians are going to have to recall a region and take unrest. So the Egyptians recall Nile Valley and take an unrest card. The next card is Prosperity. So that says discard the top card of the deck, gain 1 material and 1 population per region in play. Well, the Romans have 4 regions in play right now, so they'll get 4 materials and 4 population. And the Egyptians will also discard the top card of their deck. So the Romans now have 7 materials and 6 population. And that's the end of their turn, so they'll place Progress on the 5th card. And they'll refill their hand. It's the Egyptian turn now. They rolled a 3, and the first card is Amphitheater. It's a pinned Empire card. And now we're looking at the Empire tables for the Egyptians, as they become an empire now. So, let's see, it's pinned. Looks like that's our first priority. Yep. If able, acquire a civilized card, otherwise spend all population to gain the same number of progress. Oh, interesting. And put this card into history. Alright, so they can acquire a civilized card. Yes, there is one in the market. Okay, so the only civilized card in the market is this one. It's Astronomy, so they'll acquire that. The next card is Unrest. And then Prosperity. Okay, Prosperity. Let's see, it's not a named card on in this table, even though it was named in the Barbarian table. It doesn't appear to be so here. Okay, so it doesn't have any symbols on it, so I guess we'd go to Other for this card. Alright, discard the top 2 cards from the bot deck and put this card into history. The last card for the Egyptians is that troublesome card, Glory. Okay, that still is a named card here, even in the Dynasty table. If able, abandon 3 regions to gain the top fame card. No, they only have 2 regions in play. Otherwise, you discard a card. Okay, so that means the Romans discard a card. But you can't force a bot to discard a card. So this actually won't do anything. Therefore, we continue on down the list. Which means we're going to get to Other. Discard the top 2 cards of your deck and put this card into history. That's the end of the Egyptian turn, so some progress on the 3 card, and we will refill this hand. There's only 1 card left in their deck though, so that means take another card off the Dynasty deck and shuffle. The Romans roll a 5, and the first card is Notorious, which is that attack symbol again. So the Egyptians have to recall a region and take some unrest. So they will recall red land and unrest again. The next card is Triumvirate, which is a barbarian card. If they will spend 3 population, yes, they can do that, to break through for a tributary. Otherwise, okay, so they're going to do that. So they will break through for the Vikings. Oh wait, no, I didn't see that the the Macedonians are also sitting way over here. I didn't expect tributaries to be way over here, but they are. And they're actually worth a little bit more. So both the Vikings and the Macedonians have the asterisk here, but the Macedonians have a progress. So they'll actually take this one. The next card is Coast, which is a region, of course. So discard the top card from the deck, play the region, exile a card. So the Romans have 5 regions in play now, and they will exile the Vikings. Last card for the Romans is Conquer, which is also a barbarian card. So, yeah, if able, spend 3 population to break through for a tributary card. Yeah, they can do that. So the Romans spent that 3 population they had, but there are no tributary cards in the market anymore, so they're going to break through by drawing cards off the top of the deck. Oh, first one. Until they find a tributary, and so they found the Phoenicians, so they will take that. That's the end of the turn for the Romans. Put progress on the 5th card, and refill their hand. Didn't quite have enough cards, so have the card off the Dynasty deck and shuffle. The Egyptians roll a 1, and they play Lower Nile, a region card, which says gain 1 population, play the card, and then exile a card. So they will exile Diplomacy. The next card is Egyptian Legacy, which is an attack card. It has the Empire symbol too, but Egyptians don't care about that apparently. Okay, if able, acquire a region or a tributary. They can do that. Otherwise, gain 2. You discard a card and take unrest. Okay, you can't force a bot to discard a card, but can force them to take unrest. So the Egyptians will acquire either a region or a tributary, and the Romans will take unrest. There are no tributaries in the market, and there's only 1 region, so the Egyptians will take floodplain. Next card for the Egyptians is Unification, which doesn't have any symbols on it at all. So I guess we get all the way to Other. Discard the top 2 cards from the bot deck and put this card into history. The last card is Unrest. Uneventful. So the Egyptians end their turn, so put progress on the 1 card and refill their hand. The Romans roll a 3. The first card is Unrest. Next card is a tributary, Phoenicians. Okay. A tributary down here. This card doesn't have any other markings on it, so discard the top 2 cards from the bot deck, gain a progress, and put this card into history. The next card is Prosperity. So discard the top card, gain 1 material and 1 population per region. Well, they have 5 regions in play now, so they're going to get 5 materials and 5 population for that. And both bots will discard a card. The next card is Roman Expansion, which has that attack symbol again. Bad news for the Egyptians. So they have to recall a region and take more unrest. So they recall Lower Nile and take an unrest card. That's the end of the turn for the Romans. They place progress and refill their hand. The Egyptians roll a 4, and their first card play is Fortified Region. A region card. Gain 1 population, play this region, exile a card. So they're going to exile the moneylenders. The next card is Red Land, also a region, so we're going to have a repeat of the last card, gain a population, play the card, and exile the card. So once again, the Egyptians keep putting the regions out, and the Romans keep taking them back. Okay, so they're going to exile the Etruscans. And we have another region. So same thing again, right? Gain a population, play the region, exile a card. So this time they're going to exile a region, grassland. The last card for the Egyptians is Amphitheater, which is a pinned card. I believe that's the first priority, yes. If able, acquire a civilized card. Yes, they can do that. Otherwise, okay, they're not going to do that. Okay, so they'll just acquire a civilized card. There are two civilized cards to choose from. We have Exports here, which is worth 7 victory points, and we have Mercenaries here, which is worth 5. So they'll take Exports. So that's the end of the turn for the Egyptians. They place Progress and reset their hand. The Romans now roll a 3 and play the Advance card first, which is a Barbarian card. Although I think it has special instructions. If able, spend 5 materials, they can, to break through for a civilized card. Okay. Otherwise, if able, otherwise. Okay, so they're going to spend those 5 materials and break through for a civilized card. So they spent the 5 materials, and there are 2 civilized cards in the market. There's Education, which is worth 2 victory points, and there's Mercenaries, which is worth 5. So they'll take this one, and since they're breaking through, they don't take the Unrest. Okay. Next card is Triumvirate, which is a Barbarian card. Okay, if able, spend 3 population to break through for a tributary. Yes, they can do that. Otherwise. Okay, so they'll do that. This time there is a tributary card in the market, so they will take the Hittites. The next card for the Romans is Bread and Circuses, which is a pinned card. Here. Gain 1 population and put it into history. And the last card is just boring old Unrest. Okay, so that's the end of the Romans' turn. They place Progress on the 3 card and reset their hand. The Egyptians now roll a 3, and their first card is Astronomy, which is a pinned card. Okay, so pinned. If able, acquire a civilized card. Yes, they can do that. Okay, otherwise, okay, they're not going to do that. So that's all they'll do. There's only 1 civilized card in the market, so they'll take Education. Next card is Unrest. And then more Unrest. Okay. Romans love to give their opponents Unrest, apparently. Okay, and a region card, Lower Nile. So for that, we gain a population, play the card, and exile the card. The Egyptians have somehow managed to get 5 regions in play without the Romans making them take them back. Alright, so they're going to exile the card, so it'll be Jade Mask. It's the end of the Egyptians' turn. They will place a token on the 3 slot and refill. Okay, I don't think they have enough cards. No. Okay, so they're going to take a card from the Dynasty deck and shuffle. The Roman turn now, they roll a 5. And their first card play is Invasion. It's got that attack symbol. You know what that means. Make the Egyptians take back some regions. Okay, so the Egyptians have to recall a region and take Unrest. They recall the Lower Nile and take an Unrest. Next card is a tributary, the Hittites. And they do not have any other symbols on their cards, so discard the top 2 cards from the bot deck, gain a progress, and put this card in history. Next card is Mercenaries, a civilized card. It kind of surprises me that Mercenaries doesn't have the attack icon. It seems kind of strange. Anyway, it doesn't. So It's not attacks, not fame, not glory, not a region, not pinned, not advanced, not prosperity, not a barbarian. Okay, we get all the way to other. Gain 2 materials. Another tributary, it's the Macedonians. So discard the top 2 cards in the bot deck. They don't have any more cards in their deck. But they'll gain a progress and put this card into history. Okay, that's the end of the Roman turn. So place progress on the 5 card. And they don't have any cards in their draw deck anymore. So, Dynasty card. Julius Caesar's the next card. So next time they put a Dynasty card in their discard pile, they'll finally move to Empire. The Egyptians now, they rolled a 2. The first card is Exports, which interestingly does have the attack icon. I find that kind of strange. Mercenaries do not attack, but somehow exports are attack. What kind of attacking is that? Okay, anyway, it's got that symbol. Okay, which is on here. Okay, and it's the first one. Yeah, they don't care about the Empire symbol. Okay, so if able, acquire a region or a tributary. But they can't do that. There are no regions and there are no tributaries in the market. They're only civilized and uncivilized cards. So they're not going to do that. Otherwise, gain 2 progress. Okay, so they'll do that. And can't force the Romans to discard a card, but can force them to take unrest. So the Egyptians will take 2 progress and the Romans will take 1 unrest. The next card is Education, which is a civilized card. Only has the Empire symbol, which the Egyptians don't care about, so I think we're going to get all the way to Other here. Yeah, it's none of these. Okay, Other. Discard the top 2 cards from the bot deck, and this card goes to history. Next card is Astronomy. The Egyptians are playing all their civilized cards, which has the pinned icon. So, if able, acquire a civilized card. Yes, they can do that. I don't think they do anything else, no. There is 1 civilized card in the market, and it's Leadership. Remember, these, even though it's got that green banner, it can have the civilized icon, and it does. So they'll acquire this. Last card for the Egyptians is a region, Floodplain. So they will gain a population, play the card, and exile a card. So they'll exile Town. That's the end of the Egyptian turn. So play the progress and reset their hand. The Romans now roll a 1, and they play a region, the Cape. So, region. Discard the top card of the bot deck, play the region, and exile a card. So they will exile the River card, and that means that the last card of the main deck has now been played. So that triggers the end game. So the Romans will finish this turn, the Egyptians will have a turn, and then we'll play 1 more round, the Romans and the Egyptians, and then that'll be the end of the game. The next card is Prosperity, which means discard the top card of the deck, gain 1 material and 1 population per region. The Romans have 6 regions in play, so they'll get 6 materials and 6 population. And the Egyptians will also discard the top card of their deck. Invasion is the next card, and it's got that attack icon. We know what that means. Okay, force the Egyptians to take back a region and some unrest. So the Egyptians recall Floodplain and take an unrest. Next card is Glory. So, Glory. If able, abandon 3 regions. They can definitely do that to gain a Fame card. Okay, that's what they're going to do. Abandon 3 regions and gain a Fame card. So they'll abandon the last 3 regions they played. Those all go into discard. And they'll gain a Fame card on top of the deck. It's the end of the Roman turn, so they'll place Progress on the 1 card and reset their hand. The Egyptians roll a 2. The first card is Unrest. Next card is oops, Leadership. Okay. Which doesn't have any icons on it at all, except civilized and uncivilized. But the Egyptians don't care about that. So we get down to other. Discard the top 2 cards from the deck and put this card into history. The next card is More Unrest. And the last card is Medicine, which is a pinned card. So, pinned. If able to acquire a civilized card, actually they can't. There are nothing but uncivilized cards in the market. That's kind of weird. Nothing but uncivilized cards. Okay, so there's no civility here. Okay, so they can't do that. Otherwise, spend all population to gain the same number of progress and put this card into history. Wow, that's a big gain. That's a big haul for the Egyptians. The Egyptians have 14 population, so they just picked up 14 progress, and they'll spend all of that. Okay, that's the end of the Egyptian turn. Place progress, slide this down, and refill their hand. They only have 2 cards, so they'll have to again add another card from the Dynasty deck and reshuffle. Okay, so these are the last 2 turns. The Romans get to go one more time, and the Egyptians get to go one more time, and then we'll score and see who the winner is. So the Romans roll a 1, and they play a Fame card, Imperial. And let's see, Fame card says spend all population to gain the same number of progress. Wow, they're going to do the same things the Egyptians just did. And this card goes into history. Yeah, how about that? The Romans didn't have quite as much population. They only have 9. So they'll gain 9 population and spend all of this. The next card is Mercenaries again. And let's see. How'd this go last time? We went all the way to Other. Yeah, just gain 2 materials. The next card is Prosperity. So, discard the top card of the deck. Gain 1 material and 1 population per region in play. They have 3, so they'll get 3 of each. And both bots will discard a card. The last card is Unrest. And that's it for the Roman turn. We'll place progress on the 1 card, and they will refill their hand. They only have 3 cards, so I think it's just enough for them to get another Dynasty card just before the end of the game, and it's Julius Caesar. So at the very last moment, the Romans decide, hey, let's become an empire. Okay. So on the very last turn of the game, the Egyptians roll a 6. The first card is Unrest. Second card is Egyptian Legacy with the attack symbol. So, yeah, attack. Nothing else is relevant. Okay, if able to acquire a region or a tributary, no, they can't do that. Still nothing but uncivilized cards. Otherwise, gain 2 progress. And the Romans have to take Unrest. Next card is Amphitheater, the pinned icon again. Okay, if able to acquire a civilized card, they can't. Otherwise, spend all population to gain the same number of progress. Well, they don't have any population. They don't have any population anymore. They just gave it all away. So this doesn't do anything. Okay, so we carry on. So we get to Other, discard the top 2 cards in the bot deck, and put this card into history. Next card is Ramses II, which doesn't have any icons except the Empire icon. So we're going to get all the way to Other, same thing again, discard the top 2 cards, put this card into history. And now, the last card of the game. Unrest. Okay, well that's it. Okay, so they don't place progress because they roll a 6, but they do have to refill their hand to complete their turn. Okay, so they only have 1 card in their hand, so that means they also get a final Dynasty card right before the end of the game. And that's it. Okay, there you have it. That's how the game ends. And now it's time to score and see who wins. So now it's time to do the scoring. Scoring for the bots is a much simpler affair than it is in the standard game. So what we do is we first calculate how many progress tokens. That's worth 1 victory point. And then every 10 population and materials in any combination is worth 1 victory point. Okay. And then we score the cards. So the way this works is you just collect together the cards from the play area, the deck, the discard pile, and the history. And the hand. Okay, all those together. And so we don't score cards in the Dynasty deck. So you just throw the Dynasty deck away and collect together all the other cards that the bot has. Then each card that has a number value, they just score that number value. If it has a question mark on it, instead of reading the text and determining, you know, how many points it gets based on what the text says, instead you just give it the highest number of victory points indicated in that text. So no matter where the card, like if it says 10 points if this is in history, doesn't matter. Even if it wasn't in history, if that's the highest points it indicates, then that's what it gets. It just gets the highest points. And then asterisks just count as 5. Again, we ignore the text and we just give them 5 points. So it's much simpler. Okay, and then whoever has the most points wins. So we're going to do scoring just like this for both of the bots. The way I do this, though, is I suppose a little bit different than the way it's suggested in the rulebook. Instead of adding up all the points and seeing who has the most, I just do a kind of one-for-one correspondence between them. So for example, here we can look at their progress tokens. Okay, well, we can take away 10 from over here and take away 10 from over there. Okay, so now they're, you know, we just keep going like this, and as soon as one of the bots runs out of victory points, well, whichever one still has victory points left, that's the winner. Okay, so that's how I'll do it. Okay, so then there's another 9 here. Okay, so take those away and take away 10 here and add back 1 for change. Okay, so the Egyptians still have 12 progress tokens over the Romans, but these count as progress too. So for every 10 materials and population combined, that counts as a victory point. So here's another 2 victory points, so that takes those 2 away. Okay, and now these 3 don't count for anything, and those 4 don't count for anything because they don't add up to at least 10. Okay, so right now the Egyptians are ahead by 10. Another thing worth noting here is that we don't score the power cards, even though they have victory points on them. The rulebook actually tells us all symbols and text on the bot's power card are ignored. Okay, that's true for scoring too. So these are ignored. The only reason all the power cards do in the solitaire game is to provide a place to put the history. The history goes under them. That's it. These don't do anything. So here is 10 points worth of victory points from the Roman deck to counteract those 10 points. Okay. Both bots had 2 unrest cards as well, so those just cancel out. Okay, it's time for the final reckoning. So what I've done is I've put cards in sets according to victory points. So for example, this card is worth 8 victory points. So again, question marks, we just give them the highest value. No matter whether this was in history or not, doesn't matter. It just gets 8 victory points. And so I've matched that up with 8 total victory points from the Egyptian's hand. Okay, so I've put the cards into sets, and so we'll just go down the line. We'll just go down the line, and whoever's got cards left over at the end of the line is the winner. Romans on the left, Egyptians on the right. Okay. So these are 5-point sets. These are 5-point sets. These are 6-point sets. And 5 points. And that's it. The Egyptians win by 10 points. So there you have it. The Egyptians knock out the Romans in a fairly close game, just a 10-point margin. But the Romans are now out of the tournament. So next installment, we'll have the Persians up against the Mauryans. I hope to see you then. Till then, bye.